All right, folks, we're gonna do a head-to-head review of the Sitka Ascent Pant versus the Stone Glacier De Havilland Lite. And using these 12 categories, I'm gonna do my best job to tell you which of these pants is best for you and your hunting style. Price, weight, materials, warmth, breathability, durability, fit, construction, features, options, packability, and odor resistance. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm gonna tell you how you can win not only one of these pair of pants, but a complete apparel setup from either Stone Glacier or Sitka. That'll be a 4-piece kit that will include pants, base layer, dynamic insulation mid layer, and static insulation outer layer. So stay tuned until the end. Now, one thing I want to address right out of the gate is that the Ascent is not an apples to apples comparison against the De Havilland Lite. And some people are going to say, well, why didn't you pick the 206? Because the Stone Glacier 206 is their marketed ultralight pant and would be a more natural comparison to the Ascent. Here's my issue with the 206. One, it only has a single cargo pocket. I'm not a big fan of that. Number two, no knee pads. Now, I never thought I was gonna be a knee pad guy until I started running them for the first time. Now, I have a really hard time wearing hunting pants that don't offer knee pads. And number three, and I know this is gonna seem silly, but color. The 206s come in one color, and it's this super bright beige. They call it sand, and I just don't see how that wouldn't get instantly dirty. And it's not like I care about my hunting pants getting dirty, but it's like, if I don't have to look like a scrub, I don't want to look like a scrub. And either a darker earth tone like what Stone Glacier offers in the De Havilland Lite, or a nice camo pattern like Sitka offers in the Ascent, both do a better job of covering up dirt. And the final reason that I didn't pick the 206 is that Stone Glacier does intentionally market the De Havilland Lite as an early season pant. Sitka specifically markets the Ascent Pant as an early season pant. So technically, we're putting one early season pant against another early season pant, and I think that is fair grounds for a comparative analysis. Now, more context. I've run the Ascents for almost 2 years. I have about 15 to 20 field days in the De Havilland Lites. So I'll come right out of the gate and say my experience is somewhat limited with the De Havilland Lites compared to the Ascents. However, I still think I wore them on an entire elk hunt, several scouting trips down here in the lower mainland in BC. I feel very confident that I've put them through their paces far enough to give you an educated opinion on what they offer. Now, one quick note before we dive into the review itself. If you like my reviews, if you like my hunt films and you want to see more of them, or if you are interested in joining a like-minded community of hunters that are interested in nerding out about gear and supporting each other as they develop as hunters, I would urge you to go to mindful-reviews.com. It's the online review platform that I have built where you can enter raffles for gear, you can win monthly prizes as a lifetime member, and there's great forums, and you can even participate and help selecting the products that I review. Mindful-reviews.com. All right, first up, price. Sitkas come in at $199 USD, Stone Glaciers come in at $179 USD. Stone Glacier beats Sitka by 20 bucks, so it wins this category. Weight. Now this one was surprising, but not that surprising, because even when you pick these things up, you can tell that the Stone Glacier is a significantly heavier pant. But the Sitka came in at 16 ounces, and the Stone Glacier came in at 24.6 ounces, or basically a pound versus a pound and 8.6 ounces, or just over a pound and a half. So the Stone Glaciers are 54% heavier than the Sitkas. So Sitka wins this round. So the Ascents are constructed of 60% Cordura, 30% nylon, and 10% spandex. And I've got to admit, I haven't seen a high stretch Cordura like this pant. Now, if I'm wrong, and if you know of any other hunting pants or mountaineering or backpacking pants that have Cordura as the base material and then nylon and some type of spandex or elastane in addition, I would love it if you could drop it in the comment section below, because I would love to give them a test. Because I always liked this material a lot, and now I know why I liked it so much. Now, the Stone Glaciers are made out of 89% nylon and 11% spandex. So essentially, both pants have the same amount of spandex, but the Stone Glaciers are then made up of purely nylon, and the Sitkas have a 60-30 Cordura nylon blend. And I gotta give the point to Sitka in this particular category. When we get into the further sections around breathability and durability, you're gonna see why I think a lot of the benefits that this material offers has to do with its Cordura base. Now, when we wanna talk about warmth, it is very clear that the Stone Glacier takes the lead. The material is significantly heavier than the material that the Ascents use, and bottom line, it just keeps you warmer. And the expected contrast is that Sitka wins for breathability. The Ascent Pant is clearly a more breathable pant. Now, let's talk about durability. Now, as I mentioned before, I've run the Sitka pant significantly longer than the Stone Glacier pant. But what I found was interesting is that I already have a fair amount of piling occurring on the knee sections of the Stone Glacier, and I have none occurring on the knee sections, or anywhere for that matter, of the Sitka. Now, other than that piling, there is no discernible significant, wear or tear or functional damage to either pant. And one thing that was interesting is that after I did the ambient versus Circ Lite review last week, a buddy of mine touched base who'd run the Circ Lite for a pretty short, time overall. I think it was like a 2-week stone sheep hunt. And by the time he got back, he had significant piling where the belt on his backpack was riding and where his shoulder straps were riding. More than you would really expect a product to show after the first 2 weeks. And so I wonder if there isn't some similarities in the face fabric of the Circ Lite and the fabric that are used on these pants. But given that the Stone Glaciers are the only one that's really showing that piling, I gotta give the durability point to Sitka in this case. Fit is a bit of an interesting conversation because while there are elements of both these pants I like, there are also elements of both these pants that I do find kind of annoying. Let's start with the Sitkas first. Now, I typically wear a 36 in jeans, and I have to upsize to a 38 in the Sitka for the rest of the pant to fit me. So I wind up with a waist that is kind of 2 sizes too big, but then the rest of the pant fits absolutely perfectly. And I prefer to run an Arcade stretchy belt. It's my favorite belt, hands down. There's nothing even close as far as I'm concerned. So that basically fixes the problem for me. And there's enough decent sized belt loops on the Ascents that it snugs it down kind of equally across the entire waistband, so I don't get a bunch of crunching or cinching going on. It fits quite well. However, I wish there was a slightly more athletic fit to some of their garments. As I've talked about before, they tend to be built kind of boxy, or for people who tend to have bigger stomachs than legs or arms. And so just keep that in mind going in. But still a very comfortable pant to wear. It articulates very well. It's a 4-way stretch nylon material, so you never feel constricted or caught up. The De Havilland Lites were also very interesting. Now, I kind of fell right between a large and an extra large. Now, large is supposed to be equivalent to a 36, and an extra large is equivalent to a 38. So I wasn't really that surprised. Now, one of the features on the Stone Glacier is the contoured waist option. Now, what is the contoured waist? Essentially, instead of sewing in both sides of the zipper, kind of locking in the circumference of the hip line of your pants, Stone Glacier gives you 1/2 in Velcro and then puts some Velcro on the other side of the zipper so that you can move the zipper in or out, creating a bigger or wider waist. Now, the thing that is nice about this is that while a belt will cinch pants down directly around your hip bones, it doesn't really change the rest of the fit. So this allows kind of more room throughout the outer upper hip and kind of the inner crotch region. Now, it's not a whole lot. Like realistically, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches at most. But it is enough that when you're in between sizes, you can kind of make either of those sizes fit you. The deciding factor for me was the thigh room. I needed the thigh room in the extra larges, especially once I put on, if I wanted to wear a bottom base layer, there was no way I was going to be comfortable in just the larges. Now, the only note I do want to make about the contour waist that I find a little bit annoying is that it happened pretty frequently that I would go to open my pants or take down my zipper and I would end up just ripping the two Velcro slabs apart. I almost wish there was some way, like there was a little lock, like a snap button, and I realized this might not be possible because of the fluidity or the variability in where that Velcro attaches, but I wish there was some kind of lock feature at the top of the Velcro so that you couldn't unintentionally rip it open. Because then once you rip it open, you kind of got to find out where it fits best and like reseat it and kind of do the whole process over again. And it wasn't uncommon to happen, once a day or once every other day. You go and take a leak, you don't think, you just go to open your pants and normally the zipper would just come down, but then the Velcro would rip apart. So not a deal breaker, but mildly annoying. Now the thing I didn't quite like about the Stone Glaciers, and I'm not sure exactly how to describe this, I'm sure there's a definition for this part of the pant, but essentially I'm talking about this top, let's say 10 inches, like the area from the bottom of the crotch or the top of the crotch to the top of the belt line. I find that a little long on the Stone Glacier. So if I wear my belt where I would typically wear my belt, I kind of get a bit of sag and droop in the crotch line. And then when you walk, you can kind of feel it like catching on you. Then if I pull the pants up far enough to get the crotch to kind of snug up into where it feels most comfortable, then I kind of feel like I'm wearing high-waisted pants and wearing them a little higher than I normally would. Now, after I wore the pants for about a week, I kind of stopped noticing that and I got used to it and it really wasn't that big a deal. And we're really talking about like an inch to an inch and a half of leeway one way or the other. So it's not like it's a huge deal. But I will say that neither of these pants, as far as I'm concerned, like absolutely knock it out of the park as far as fit goes. You're going to be compromising one way or another if you're more of an athletically inclined individual. So due to that, I'm going to give them a tie at 1 point apiece for the fit department. For construction, I'm going to give the point to Stone Glacier. Now this is the third review in a row that we've compared Sitka versus Stone Glacier products. And the trend that has continued across all three reviews is that the construction techniques Stone Glacier uses are a little more robust than the construction techniques that Sitka uses. So the minimalist trend in Sitka's design comes all the way over to their construction techniques. They have a lot of thin seams, they have a lot of single threaded seams, they have, they'll use flat lock seams, but they'll only use single layer flat lock seams. When you get into the Stone Glacier, they will double and triple thread some themes. They will do flat locks, but they'll double them up and layer them and then sew those together. So overall, as has been the case with the other two pieces of gear, Stone Glacier is going to take the lead in the construction department. Now, features is an interesting conversation. First, we'll list the features of each pant, and then I'll tell you why I think one is better than the other. The Ascent Pant does have knee pads. It has 4 pockets, 2 zipped cargo pockets, and 2 unzipped hip pockets, and it has a bi-directional zipper. Now, the reason that this is important is that when you are wearing your backpack, the zipper, normally the top zipper is kind of buried under your hip belt. You can't reach up in there and unzip it without unbuckling the hip belt of your backpack. With a bi-directional zipper, there's another zipper down at the bottom that you just pull up as far as you need to and then kind of take care of business from there. So that those 3 features are kind of the standout elements for the Sitka Ascent. For the feature set on the Stone Glacier De Havilland Lites, it has 6 pockets. So 2 unbuttoned hip pockets, 2 cargo pockets that have a button, not a zipper, and then 2 rear pockets as well. And I would say overall, the pocket design is superior on the Stone Glacier. They're a little bit deeper, they're a little bit wider, they have a little more excess fabric in them. When you put stuff in your pockets in the Sitka pants, it tends to feel uncomfortable. It tends to be a little bit too tight and you can see the outline of it in your pants really well. So you don't end up using the pockets in the Sitka very often for large items. As we already mentioned, the contour waistline zipper would be an additional feature of the Stone Glacier. And something we haven't talked about yet is the side zips. Now, I'm going to say that's an additional feature, but I'm going to clarify that in a moment. So if we just go on pure feature set, the Stone Glacier wins the feature conversation because they're a more fully featured pant. Again, supporting this trend of Sitka being more minimalist and Stone Glacier being more full featured. Now, as far as the knee pads go, the Sitka's is pretty basic, classic, closed cell foam. It's one piece and it doesn't really have any standout elements to it. On the other hand, the Stone Glacier is much more well designed. It seems more full featured. It almost has like a slight memory foam type quality to it. And you would say that in design, the Stone Glacier is clearly superior to the Sitka. However, in practice, I moderately preferred the Sitka to the Stone Glacier. And I think it's because the Stone Glacier tends to thin out near the edges, and the really thick usable portion is kind of right in the center. And unless your knee pads are in the exact purpose, it sometimes doesn't protect you exactly as you would hope. Whereas the Sitka stays consistent all the way to the edge. And you can even see comparing them, like the Sitka is just a little bit bigger, gives you a little bit more surface area. And so it's by a very slim margin, but by a slight margin still, I would give the edge on the knee pad to Sitka. I know lots of people that prefer the Stone Glacier one though, so I would take my opinion on this with a grain of salt. Now, I do want to take a moment and discuss the side zips, because this was one of the things that I found a lot of people really liked about the De Havilland Lite. And anytime I complained about how warm the De Havilland Lites were for me, they would come back with, well, just use the side zips. And it's like, I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with where people hunt. I think a lot of people who wear these tend to be hunting in more open terrain. But if you're hunting in British Columbia where the brush is as thick as it is, side zips are just a flat out no-go. I mean, my pants would be full of like leaves and twigs and debris within 5 minutes. And because you're wearing gaiters and fully zipped hiking boots, it would be such a pain in the ass to try and get all that vegetation and brush out of the bottom of your pants. So this is why I put a little bit of an asterisk beside the side zips being an additional feature, because for me, I wish they weren't here. And you can tell when you pick up the pant, they are a large reason for the excess weight. There's a lot of weight in these side zips. And I would much rather, because this pant is called a De Havilland Lite, I almost wish they would have applied the light philosophy in both the design and the material selection. So if you're gonna have the full-blown De Havillands, let them have the side zips. Let them be more full-featured. Let them be a little bit more heavy, a little bit more rugged, a little bit more multi-season. And if you're gonna go for an early season De Havilland Lite, ditch the side zips and go for a slightly lighter material while still having the robust feature set that the De Havilland is known for. Again, take this with a grain of salt, because I know more people who like the side zips than don't like it. Just in my personal opinion, I've never been a big fan of side zips. As far as options, you can buy Sitka in 2 camo colors and 1 solid color. It's available in 14 sizes in total, waist size 30 through 38 in regular and tall, and then sizes 40 and 42 in regular. The Stone Glacier is available in 2 solid colors, no camos, and 10 sizes, with 4 of those sizes in the middle, I think the 32 through 38 range, having a tall variation. So Sitka will come out on top for options. Packability is about what you expect. I would say the Sitka is about 20% more packable. It just has less seams, less zippers, thinner material, and less weight overall. And finally, odor resistance. I gotta give it to the Sitka because they use Polygene. Now, Polygene is a salt silver finishing product that they put on materials that has been shown to have antimicrobial effects. I've never really worried about stinky pants. I mean, on long hunts, your bottom base layers, whether they be boxers or long johns, certainly get nasty. but my pants themselves had never been that bad. So it's not like a huge deal for me, but I do think that over the long run, the Sitkas are gonna be slightly better at odor resistance than the Stone Glaciers. Okay, before we go to the final rankings and before we go to my final thoughts, let's first talk about how you can win one of these pieces. So I have put together a raffle. Those tickets are available at mindful-reviews.com. You have to be a member in order to buy raffle tickets. So go to Mindful Reviews, purchase a membership, then you can purchase raffle tickets. The winner will then be able to put together a 4-piece package from either manufacturer, or they can mix and match. But you'll get to pick a pair of pants, a base layer, a mid-layer piece of active insulation, and an outer layer piece of static insulation. Now, if you know what you want when you win, fantastic. Tell me what it is, I'll have it ordered and delivered. If you don't know what you want, I am more than happy to hop on a Zoom call with you, help you pick the pieces that best fit your style and your particular body type, and then we'll have them shipped over to you. So again, if you want to participate in that raffle, tickets are live now. If you're watching this video at a later date and you're not sure, make sure to have a look in the description. As soon as the raffle sells out, I will update that description, and then you will know that there are tickets no longer available. And again, if you want to come join a like-minded community of gear-focused hunters, mindful-reviews.com. So when all is said and done, the Sitka comes in with 16 points, and the Stone Glaciers come in at 19 points. And with the ranking system I use, the winner of each category gets a 1, the loser gets a 2. So the lowest score wins. So Sitka comes out in first place. Now I think this is a function of how I tend to be a minimalist in my apparel choices, specifically my bottoms. I run very hot. I'll run these Ascents all the way through October and November. I might put a base layer under them, but I like how light they are and I like how breathable they are. So for me and my personal preference for early season pants, the Sitkas definitely come out on top. And I would say something of note here is that Sitka is very good at making specialized products. I'm seeing this as I do more head-to-head reviews with them and other companies, whereas Stone Glacier is better at making, let's call them shoulder products. Like the Avro synthetic hoodie, while it's not the perfect super early season, super hot weather hoodie, you could run it from August through to October, no problem. Into November, no problem. The Core Lightweight is so light that it's gonna be a little better for August and early September, but then it's gonna be not nearly as good for October through to November. So I think if you have a bigger budget and you can buy pieces for very specific uses, Sitka tends to have better options. But if you have less of a budget or you're just a simpler person, you're like, listen, I want one setup that I can wear through most of the year, and if it's not quite as good at some of the elements, that's okay. I think Stone Glacier stands out. Now that being said, so I ran the Stone Glacier on my elk hunt, and I would say, like anecdotally, it held up really well. The movement and the fabric was great. I didn't have any issues with it, but it was a little bit warm for my liking. Now, I'm going on a second rifle mule deer hunt in Colorado at the end of October. I would definitely choose the De Havilland Lites over the Sitka Ascents for that particular hunt. There's probably going to be some decent wind, some snow might blow in, and I think the next step up from the Ascents in Sitka is a mountain pant. Now the mountain pant is significantly heavier than either of these pants. And while I like the mountain pant, it is definitely a later season pant for me. I don't like the Timberline at all. It's too heavy, it's too bulky, it's too clunky, it's not my type of pant. The mountain pant is about as heavy as I will go until I'm just wearing like either the Blizzard Aerolite bibs or something like the Stormfront rain gear bottoms with long johns if I'm hunting goats in like, February or something like that. But I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that for early season hotter hunts, I would prefer the Ascents. For later season cooler hunts, I would prefer the De Havilland Lites. And so I think the question you need to ask yourself is, do you tend to run hot or cold? That's going to dictate which one of these you prefer. And what do you tend to hunt more often? Earlier and hotter or later and cooler? You put those two pieces of data together, and I think it's gonna lead you fairly naturally to one of these pants over the other. All right, folks, that's all we got. The Sitka Ascent versus the Stone Glacier De Havilland Lite. I hope that was helpful. If you have any further questions, please drop them in the comments section below. I would love a little support on this video. YouTube does not really organically support hunting related material, so if you could drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, anything that would help push this up in the algorithm, it would be greatly appreciated. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.